I didn't realize that I was struggling with depression until I had to get 24 cavities filled in one day, because for the 5 months before that, I couldn't even get out of bed and take care of myself. And it's difficult because when you're not feeling sad, you're feeling nothing. I wasn't aware that that was a part of my depression.
Cassandra, thanks so much for coming down. And where do we get started?
Thank you, Laura. When it comes to skincare, I see it as a form of healthcare, right? We need to wash our skin and wash our body. But there were days that I couldn't get up out of bed and go to the sink. Even though I hate makeup wipes as a medical esthetician and a skincare expert, there is a time and place for them. And just keeping a set of makeup wipes by the side of your bed, if you don't feel like you could actually take care of yourself, this can be a great way to make sure that you're still washing your skin.
I don't do that much of a skincare routine, so I'd love your advice on if I'm just feeling one of those days.
Sure. Well, I think it's important to understand that part of healthcare is making sure that you are taking care of yourself. But it can be really difficult, like washing your face or brushing your teeth when you're not feeling the best. And for me, that was one of the pieces of my depression that was kind of a trigger for me. I realized, I'm not able to feel motivated to do this 5 to 10 step routine that I love. Or I'm not able to get out of bed and take a shower feeling motivated to do the things I want to do. So at least I have these that I can rely on. When it comes to not having a skincare routine, as long as you're taking care of yourself, using a cleanser and a sunscreen, taking showers or baths regularly, it's pretty good. You don't need to do an elaborate 5 to 10 steps. But for some people, taking that moment of being in front of the mirror, practicing that self-care, it can be really meditative and healing. And for me, that's why when I'm able to, I love to do 5 or 7 steps. I've been depressed and felt pits of sorrow and apathy and all of these negative emotions. But then there were times that I was just completely apathetic and indifferent. And it's difficult because when you're not feeling sad, you're feeling nothing. I wasn't aware that that was a part of my depression.
For you, what's the difference between sadness and depression? How do you know when you're feeling depressed?
For me, it's normal to feel sad. I'm a person with lots of emotions. And so when something happens, when my cat died or when my grandmother died, of course I was sad, or if someone says something negative or mean to me. But that sadness is something that was triggered by an event, and it's something that, kind of leaves after a week or two.
It's like a normal human emotion that we all feel.
I think so.
Yeah.
But if it sticks around, or if it's something that's getting in the way of my day-to-day life, again, if it feels like this all-consuming, like swallowing hole or shadow that I can't get out of, or that I'm having suicidal ideation, that means I need to seek help. Or if I just feel numb, I just don't want to do anything, no motivation. I can't even brush my teeth. I can't even get up to the sink. That for me has started to become a trigger of, maybe I need to speak to somebody a little bit more about this, or maybe I need to, assess where I am with my mental health.
So now that we're clean,
yes.
What do we do next?
For me, having struggled with acne for so many years, I used to really struggle with skin picking. Now that I have a depression skincare routine, I have something like an acne spray. So I don't even have to be at the sink. I can just spray this on my body or my skin to take care of acne so that I'm taking care of my skin and giving it what it needs. But it's also not something that's overwhelming that I have to go to a mirror, look at my skin, or feel tempted to pick.
So what's in something like this?
This has salicylic acid.
Okay.
Salicylic acid comes from wintergreen leaves, essentially, and it's a really common acne medication that has been proven to be effective. And so when you're upset, depressed, even when you're sad, it can feel overwhelming with all these products. Look for things that have medically backed ingredients or ingredients that have been studied first. And Laura, is it the same with medications? Not everyone maybe uses a medication. For me, there are times that I did and didn't, but I'm sure there are medications versus other therapies.
Yeah, I'm curious about your experience with medications, with depression. It's something that a lot of people are, concerned about, that they think about, am I gonna have to be on a medication forever if I start taking one? What were your concerns when you were thinking about potentially taking medication?
Yeah, I think my biggest concern was addiction. I have a very close family member who was addicted to drugs and alcohol. And seeing this person that I loved so much get addicted to random substances, I was terrified to get on any medication. Will I ever be able to get off? Or when I'm depressed, if I can't get out of bed and brush my teeth and I've got 24 cavities, can I rely on myself to take a pill every day? I think that's still something that scares me, even though I've worked through it and found solutions.
How did you get through that initial kind of trepidation around medications?
I ended up speaking with my best friend, who's also a family member of mine, an extended family member, who had dealt with depression, and she specifically dealt with anxiety and self-harm issues that were a little different than mine. But she shared with me how helpful medication was. And even though we didn't grow up in the same household, we both grew up in family dynamics where it was bad or wrong to be depressed or to need help. It was a sign of weakness. And she even told me, she's like, seeking help, talking about these things with me or a therapist, it's a sign of strength. You have emotions, you're a human, it's okay to feel those. Or if you're feeling nothing, it's okay to want to feel. And if you have that motivation to want to feel again, at least you have a want for something. And so speaking with her just as a friend really was that gateway, and seeing it was okay for her, maybe it's okay for me.
And what was it about medication that you found helpful?
I think for me, medication was a bridge in order to get up, get out of bed, and then get into therapy. And I'm currently unmedicated because after 10 years of therapy, I've been able to find out what are my triggers, what are my low points. CBT and DBT and somatic therapy has been really helpful for me. I've found tools in my mental health toolbox that I can use to manage these feelings. But if I need help, I also know it's okay to pick up the phone. It's okay to check myself into a psychiatric place if I need to. Or it's okay to go back to a psychiatrist and ask for medication if that's something that I need. I had these fears about having to rely on medication or relying on another person. When is medication versus therapy appropriate for someone versus when is it just sadness that people will work through?
Wow, yeah, these are big questions. And it's something that I get asked almost every time I meet with someone for the first time, because I think it's something that, we all have in our minds. What's the difference between when I'm feeling, sadness for a real connected emotional reason versus when are things getting really bad and it's time to reach out for help? And I would say that's when you can't do the things that you really love to do, when you can't get yourself to, take care of your basic needs, the kind of things that we're talking about, when you have to fall to, routines where you are just doing stuff to get by. With medications, they can be so helpful for some people. And I've seen the way that they really help people to get to where they need to be in order to engage in therapy and in order to make those connections in their life that they've been looking to make, or the changes that they're looking to make in their lives. The effect of medication can be that it takes you from a place where you're really unable to do anything to a place where you can actually you have something to grab onto. And I don't know if that's the experience that you had. You said that you had taken medication for some time, and you called it a bridge. And I loved that metaphor, because I think that's what a lot of my clients tell me, is that it's something where it just gets them the little bit they need to get to the point where they can actually engage again, where things feel exciting, or like they are able to take those steps that they've been meaning to take.
Something that kind of comes up for me as you're talking about that is trust. Now I know that I can rely on this extended family member and best friend of mine. I can trust that she'll be there for me. Or if I have a therapist or a doctor, a psychiatrist, or a mental health expert, I can trust them to be there for me. But that took time to build. What if someone feels like they don't have anyone they can reach out to? They are feeling isolated, which is part of depression.
Sometimes someone recognizes themselves that something's going on, that they really want to do things differently, that they really want to feel different, and something tells them that this isn't how it has to be. And sometimes it is, like you said, some sort of helping hand, someone reaches out. You didn't realize yourself that you needed help. Someone signals to you something like, I've noticed this about you. And that's why I think, talking about how we can help other people is really helpful too, right? That we can reach out and say, just, how are you doing? What's going on? Is there something that's bothering you? Do you want to talk about something? Because sometimes we don't even realize we're in our rut, right? And it's hard to kind of get out of that. On the topic of medications, one of the most common questions I get is, if I start medication, am I going to have to take this forever? And I think that's a really important question. Is this something that I'm going to have to, add to my routine for the rest of my life potentially? And the answer is that it's different for everyone. So you can start medication, and it sounds like for you, what happened was you started that medication and it helped you to get to the point where you really could figure out ways to take care of yourself, learn techniques through therapy to kind of, help yourself to do the things that you needed to do to get through those days. And for other people, they find that actually medications are really helpful. They think, hey, I'm on this medication that's helpful. Why would I go off it? It's actually getting me to the place where I need to be to kind of get through the things that I'm struggling with. Some people have recurrences of mental health conditions, especially things like depression, where they've tried being off medications. It hasn't gone well, that they've had depression come back. And in those circumstances, I try to work alongside them and say, if you want to try being off medications, let's try that, or let's go lower on your dose, and let's see how it feels and what you experience and whether you do have the depression come back, and whether there's anything else we can do. For those people who don't want to end up on medications long term, sometimes they are just something that you take for a short period and it gets you to where you need to be. What's step 3?
Step 3 could be one of two things.
Yeah.
I am a huge proponent of sunscreen because we know that the sun causes damage to the skin. Just the way if we don't take care of our mental health, it can cause damage to our relationship and our bodies, like with physical stress. But sometimes it feels overwhelming to use a sunscreen. I don't even want to go outside. This is a stick sunscreen.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like a glue stick for your face, but it's really great and it's a fun texture. And I found that if I can get excited about ingredients or textures, I'm feeling excited about something. So for me, this matters. But knowing what your hobbies are, knowing what your passions are, I think is important. Because if you start ignoring those, maybe that's a sign that you're depressed or upset. I mean, what do you look for in the professional setting? What are some of those key things that people might notice have changed within themselves or in their daily routines that are kind of warning signs that something might be wrong?
I think it's a lot of the things that you're talking about. It's noticing when you've lost interest in the things that you really used to love. For someone like you, that you couldn't get out of bed and do the things that you had been doing every day that really kind of brought you joy. Not being able to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Sounds like that was one that happened to you. Yeah. And so there's this real feeling of, I just can't keep going that a lot of people have. And I'm so glad that you brought up, this sort of doing the things to take care of yourself kind of proactively. Because, I'm curious to learn about what yours are, what are the things that you do that kind of keep you interested, engaged, knowing that you're caring for yourself to kind of keep you going?
I think naturally I'm a very curious person. I consider myself a lifelong learner and I love people. It's I love hearing people's stories and perspectives. But if I can't get out of bed, if I don't even want to take care of myself, I don't want to socialize with people. And again, that can feel like this overwhelming despair and these pits of sadness and even a little bit of anger or guilt in my experience. But then sometimes it's totally numb. And I didn't realize that, losing interest in things as simple as my skincare routine that I love could be a sign of depression for me. And I think that actually speaking with, this friend of mine was also insightful. Sometimes you don't even notice things about yourself are changing, but people around you that love you and care about you do, or they're like, hey, you've been withdrawn. And I think you can't always take people's advice, but asking for advice or asking for their opinion and collecting those opinions from multiple people if you can, it can be really helpful because sometimes people see things that you don't even see yourself.
And what's your equivalent of the sunscreen for taking care of your mental health?
Oh, good question. Well, a sunscreen kind of protects you, right? It protects you from the damaging sun's rays, but it allows you to experience the sun safely. And I kind of see either therapy or medication or mental health treatment as that, because it protects you, it helps you stay safe, but you can still enjoy activities or other things without putting yourself in danger, right?
All right, what's step 4?
Yeah, these are two things that are essential for me that really help me see hygiene as a form of healthcare and skincare as self-care. When I had those 24 cavities filled on one day, I didn't realize that it had been weeks that I hadn't gotten up and taken a shower, brushed my teeth. These are tooth wipes.
I've never seen those.
So they're kind of like these little emergency tooth scrubbers.
Yeah.
And
try them out?
Yeah, they're,
Okay.
in my opinion, fantastic. But they're basically like these little sleeves, and there's one side that's more rigid and one side that protects the inside of your gums.
Okay.
And so if you're fully functioning, you're out and about, you can just use these after lunch to brush up your teeth. But if you're depressed and you can't get out of bed, you can have a floss pick next to your bed. You can have something like this where you don't need water. And sometimes I have the energy to roll over, put a makeup wipe on, do this, and call and talk to a friend. So
I love these. These are going to be at my bedside soon. Yeah, thank you.
And similarly, deodorant wipes. Sometimes having to get up, take a shower, can just feel so overwhelming. These are antiperspirant wipes, something that I learned when I was more functioning and when I was in a role of being a caregiver to others, is that people would need sponge baths if they didn't have the mobility that they needed. And I realized my mental health can actually impact my own mobility. And so if I can't give myself a sponge bath, I have deodorant wipes.
I love
that for
these.
me, like feeling fresh or just feeling normal in a way. Like when I have deodorant on and my breath feels minty, I feel a little bit more normal. Whereas if I've been in bed for a week and I feel like I smell and I don't look right, that to me can make me feel negative. So sometimes it's little things like this where I'm like, okay, I could do my deodorant wipe. I could do my toothbrush. It's okay to get up and just walk a little circle around the room. And sometimes stepping into that action is a way for me to get out of a sadder place. And then I can get up and call for help. I love people, but I realize if I'm withdrawing from them, maybe that's a sign that I'm not doing the best. And sometimes what I need from people around me is something they can or can't provide, right? So for me, talking to these people that I trust is super important, or quality time. Like Laura, the fact that you're willing to sit here and talk with me about this, it means so much. But for some people, like, they need to feel loved by like receiving a bowl of soup or someone doing something for them. And it wasn't until I went to therapy I realized I have different ways of feeling that someone cares about me. Maybe you need to be told that you're cared about because people could do things for you all day, but you're like, nobody loves me because they never say so. And so knowing what you need and then voicing that to people and knowing that they may or may not be able to give you that, I think is important.
How did you learn what you needed? Because it sounds like you have an idea and you know, I need to reach out to this person for this or that person for that, or this is what makes me, feel taken care of. Did you learn that somehow during your life?
Therapy.
Yeah.
I think it was one of those things that, growing up, my mother was very physically affectionate, lots of hugs and things like that. Even though she would constantly give us this physical form of affection, we never spoke about mental health. But sometimes we grow up in situations where we aren't given enough information, or there is that shame. And I think it was talking to therapists and feeling safe, talking to people like you who are mental health experts, and like feeling like it's okay, and then realizing other people have these emotions or lack of emotions. And it's actually a sign of strength to talk about it and to ask for help. Dude, if I can not overcome, but if I can navigate my own depression, that's like one of the hardest things I've ever done. That's proof that I can get through a lot, right?
What advice would you give to teens that are watching about how they can take care of their mental health?
It's difficult if you don't know that you're struggling. So getting to know yourself is really important. And then when you start losing motivation or interest in those things, first off, recognizing that. And then knowing that it's okay to ask for help. How strong is it for someone to come to you and say, I'm struggling, or this has happened to me and I need to talk about it? I feel like we're so used to bottling things up and it feels really difficult. That doesn't even take a fraction of the strength that we need to actually ask for help sometimes.
And we think about being on the other side of that. When someone comes to us, we're so happy that they reached out.
Happy. That person who means so much to me, she actually has come to me for issues. And like, when I'm able to be there for her, when I know that I'm in a stable place to support her, I feel so honored that she has given me the gift to trust me with that. And like, it makes me emotional because I care about her so much. And knowing that she can be there for me as well, it makes me feel really connected at times that, I felt like nobody loved me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, I mean, those things do bring up emotions because it actually makes us feel so good to be helpful to other people in our lives who we love and we care about.
And like, what a gift it is for her to give that to me. And like, maybe there's someone that needs to talk to you, or maybe there's someone that you can talk to.
Yeah.
And you never know how just like the simplest thing, like the words I love you or I care about you, or a bowl of soup, someone coming and bringing you the wipes because you can't order them off the internet yourself.
I'm gonna call you and say, can you bring them over to my house?
Yeah, or just showing up with like a care basket sometimes. It means so much because you know, at the end of the day, I think my depression manifested in a way of feeling guilty and unloved. And it was about feeling loved again.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. This has been so real, and I really appreciate this conversation.
Thank you for giving me such a safe space to talk about these things and for answering all my questions.